the pressure is mounting on Western Cape Premier Alan Winde to reveal the reasons for the suspension of MEC for Community Safety Albert Fritz. The ANC in the Western Cape is the latest to call for transparency on the suspension. The MEC has since stepped down. 4 other employees from his department, we believe, have also been suspended for allegedly grooming women for him. We're joined for more on the story by Dugmore. He is the ANC member of the Western Cape Legislature. Very good afternoon to you, Mr. Dugmore, and thank you very much for joining us. Perhaps to start with this portfolio of community safety. We put it on record, the Democratic Alliance has not given more details, beyond what is in the public realm, that he has since been suspended by Premier Alan Winde. But the community safety portfolio, what kind of access would this man have had if these allegations are true, just to underscore the importance of this portfolio?
Yes, it's a critical portfolio in the province, and it's also a portfolio which has been allocated a huge budget, in particular to employ extra LEAP officers. And I think this is one of the reasons that we actually need transparency here, because we think there are 2 issues at play. The first is that there are reports coming forward around issues of sexual harassment, even going back to the days.
Unfortunately, our connection there is lost to Mr. Dugmore. We'll re-establish and bring you those details. Mr. Dugmore, I believe you are back with us. If you could please finish your thought for us.
Yeah, we're back. Yeah. So there are allegations to that effect, but I think what's also going on here, this is a very sought-after portfolio, and we know that there's an internal battle in the DA on this one. You have Councillor J.P. Smith, who's very close to Dan Plato, and we believe that that faction in the DA wants Dan Plato to take over the community safety from Albert Fritz. And what we are hearing, that these allegations were actually known about for some time, but the reason that they're coming to the fore now is that Dan Plato, who was the mayor of Cape Town, lost out to Jordan Lewis, is now back in the legislature, and that grouping, that faction in the DA, wants him to take over. And that's one of the reasons why some of these allegations have now surfaced. So that's why we're saying the Premier must be transparent about this. He cannot be managing this in a way of dealing with internal DA divisions, and at the same time having a reality of potential victims of gender-based violence being uncertain and cautious about coming forward, possibly being caught up in a political battle. So, number one, the Premier needs to tell the legislature and the people of the West Cape who exactly is investigating these allegations. Secondly, he must come to the relevant portfolio committee. Our MPL, Mesuli Kama, dealing with safety, has asked for this. And, at this stage, the chairperson of that committee is just dismissing it. So the Premier needs to come to the portfolio committee and be transparent with us. What are the terms of reference? When will this investigation be complete? And where do victims go who have a story to tell and want to have their identity protected? Because we have the danger here of the DA doing the political cover-up to manage the battles between the Fritz faction and the Dan Plato faction, and that would mean that there would essentially be a cover-up, and we wouldn't come to terms with exactly what has been going on, and rumors, we are now told, that have been rife for a number of years. If we don't have that transparency, Winde faces the legitimate accusation that he's simply involved in a political cover-up here to manage DA factions.
On the channel this morning, we did speak to the DA's Western Cape chairperson. The insistence coming through from the Democratic Alliance when you speak of transparency is that the victims, have asked for protection on their side, so that's why a number of details have not been released. But you go further to ask more questions in that how many victims also have been affected by this?
Yes, exactly, and that's why from the ANC side we have been approached by other victims who are seeking clarity. If they want to come forward, who do they go to? But at this stage there's no detail, so it seems that the DA is trying to manage this investigation to deal with its internal problems, as opposed to appointing an independent person who's seen by everyone as neutral and actually outlining a process for victims to come forward. And that is not happening. No one knows the name of the investigator. No one knows who to contact if you have information. So this is heading towards a cover-up. And our province under the DA has a very bad reputation of managing sexual harassment at the workplace. We have the classic case of the head of traffic, Mr. Farrell Payne, who is in court facing sexual harassment, attempted rape charges, yet he still remains the chief director. We're not saying he's guilty or not, but surely you need to suspend him. This matter is before the courts. And there are many other examples here where these kind of issues get pushed under the table because of various political agendas. So the Premier is failing the people of the Western Cape by not coming forward. He needs to account to the Standing Committee and give us that information, because at the moment this is heading towards a DA cover-up, and that is simply unacceptable.
On the matter of the Portfolio Committee, you have requested an urgent sitting of the Portfolio Committee on community safety amid these allegations. Any progress on that request?
Well, as I indicated, our MPL for Community Safety, Ms. Suli Kama, wrote to the chairperson of the committee, who's a DA member, Mr. Reagan Allen. Reagan Allen hasn't taken this seriously at all. He's just said he will send a letter to the Premier asking who is the replacement. So he is supposed to be responsible for oversight, and this is a massive issue in the Western Cape at the moment, but he's not prepared to convene that. So what we've done now is written to the Speaker, Masizola Masela, and asked him to intervene so that the Premier is called before the Standing Committee. The DA is not keen on transparency. They're not keen on accountability. But as the ANC, we're going to push so that this issue can be investigated freely and fairly, independently, and that those that want to come forward can come forward. But we want to alert people that what is one of the issues affecting all of this is the internal DA power struggle about who should head this important portfolio committee. And we must be careful that factions in the DA do not use the situation to forward their own particular interests. The truth must come out here, and the only way that that's going to happen is if we have an independent investigator, because some of the young women, we believe, are still not willing to come forward to the police. They fear their careers, they fear their futures. So at this point in time, we want an independent investigator that people will feel comfortable to approach, because clearly the DA is blocking the Standing Committee from hearing. They're blocking giving us information on who the investigator is, and it makes a sham of any independent investigation. Winde promised the province a clean government. He has findings against himself from the Public Protector, against Anton Bredell, and now we have the situation of MEC Fritz. It's clear that he's not walking the talk. He's not actually making sure that this government of his is both accountable and above reproach.
You speak of accountability. You mentioned in your statement that the DA has a shameful history when it comes to dealing with allegations of sexual harassment. You just mentioned a few moments ago that victims would be reluctant to come forward because people wouldn't want to lose their jobs. You also alluded throughout the conversation that this is not the first time that this is happening. So what then to do, especially in an incident or incidents where potential victims are afraid to come forward because of the repercussions that you mentioned?
One of the issues we've been thinking about is to actually engage the Gender Commission, which is a national Chapter 9 institution, and alert them to the examples. Look, in regard to MEC Fritz, we as the ANC only became aware of this on Sunday night, but we have examples of other sexual harassment which we've reported at different levels. But possibly if the Gender Commission can be approached, that they come down and actually launch an investigation where they clearly put in place witness protection, protect people's futures, and then have people come forward and give information about different departments in this province, different local governments where allegations have been forwarded. It's a huge thing for a victim to come forward because you literally are putting your whole future at risk. And because there's not a trust in the DA in this province, one of the things that the ANC caucus has been discussing is whether a national body such as the Gender Commission would not be better placed to investigate these allegations against MEC Fritz, but also other allegations about what's been happening or alleged to have been happening in other provincial government departments.
Cameron Dugmore is the ANC member of the Western Cape Legislature. Thank you for availing yourself this afternoon.